Right then, the World Test Championship final. On the eve of it, Rohit Sharma tells us he's going to have a look at the surface on the day of the final and then decide his 11. Sanjay Manjrekar on ESPNcricinfo Matchday to tell us whether the team has already decided it, and that was just for us because Rohit says, Sanjay, that I'm not saying Ashwin won't play, but he doesn't confirm if Ashwin will play.
Yeah, I guess it's a very genuine sort of position that India has taken. They are a bit skeptical and uncertain about the surface because when you land up on the morning of the test match, the pitch might just look completely different. I think the call they'll take is long term, how the pitch is going to be, whether it's going to be supporting seamers right through and a lot of help. Then India might think of not going with two spinners, whether it's an obvious seam friendly pitch, then they might be tempted to get in a seamer in place of a spinner. And Ashwin should be somebody they've got seriously in their minds, so considering, of late how he's been bowling. So, yeah, I think it's a wait and watch thing. And in England, it makes a lot of sense to wait and watch.
It feels different from what they thought of this time 2 years ago, when they pretty much decided they'll play their best 11 regardless of conditions. And it seemed like a decision they'd regret. Now, Chappelli in the afternoon, we were discussing the final, said Ashwin's the kind of bowler you play regardless of conditions, especially in this Indian team, because he's better than who your fourth seamer would be. What do you make of that?
That's why I love Chappelli. And Ashwin, we've watched him over the years play away from India in test matches. Let's not talk so much about how he's performed in India. That's a no-brainer. He plays every time India plays a test match, he's in a playing 11. But away from India, I think his bowling has become more and more productive. And with DRS, and because the world is not playing spin as well as they used to India, when they have two quality spinners, just because you're in England, there's no need to go in with a seamer just for the sake of it. It's a mistake that foreign teams make when they come to India. They look at the turning pitch and play two spinners, and they find that the second spinner was really somebody they played because of the conditions. So India should pick their best, bowlers, and Ashwin and Jadeja are in that bowling unit for me.
Standout batter for you, Sanjay? There's a lot to focus on different players in this team, but if you had to focus on, say, one or two players and say if they have a good game, that's India's best chance of winning this test?
Rohit Sharma, from the Indian standpoint, I think India will have to bat well. Their bowling is a lot more predictable, and you can expect their bowlers to bring their team back into the game. The kind of phase Mohammad Shami is going through, or Siraj for that matter, and Jadeja and Ashwin. So I see the bowlers constantly being India's go-to strength or asset. If India bats well, they compete with Australia. And that is where I think Rohit Sharma is the key. We saw him in that first test match at home against Australia. The Rohit Sharma that I've seen in the last 3-4 years, I think he's in a phase of his career, mentally and physically too, where test match seems to be the format for him. It's interesting how players evolve and how things change. I mean, he'll go out there, and if there's a great first over, 6 balls on off stump, he'll leave those 6 balls despite the heavy diet he's had of T20 cricket. So that is something I feel is coming more naturally to him. And that's why I trust him to still have a very good test match. And I don't think his form in T20 cricket will have any effect really on his test match batting, which seems to have become very predictable, nicely predictable.
England are giving us quite a seductive taste of how to bat and play test cricket in their part of the world. Is there any chance India's batters might give us something like that?
If ESPNcricinfo plays, then you might get a bit of Rishabh Pant flavor in the Indian batting. And maybe down the order, you'll have somebody play that kind of a game. Maybe a Jadeja, if Shardul Thakur plays, maybe he will. But I don't see baseball being played by the 3 key batters in the top 5.
Would you play Ishan Kishan then, Sanjay?
Yes, I know it's a little out of the box. It might be a bit of a gamble, but we've seen KS Bharat enough. And just because Rishabh Pant was such a huge force in this Indian test team in the last 2 years, he was India's best test batter by far, away from India especially. So just to get that little flavor and that kind of impact that's possible at batting at that position, where opposition feel they've got 4 or 5 wickets and they're now sort of right on top, and there is a tendency to slacken a bit, and that is what Rishabh Pant fed off. And I hope ESPNcricinfo is given that opportunity, just an out of the box, a very tempting thought.
Finally, Rohit Sharma, Rahul Dravid say we don't really feel the pressure of this being an ICC event that we must win, given all the talk about India's ICC silverware having dried up. The World Test Championship is unique. It's not a one-off tournament, but it is a one-off test. And I wonder if that sort of pressure is there on this team. If they don't win this, is that going to be counted as another ICC trophy that's been missed? Or do you believe that this is really important thing for them to get ahead of a big 12 months with 2 World Cups?
I actually see that I just sort of drop back and look at the larger picture, and I see how Indian cricket has grown over the last 3, 4 decades, where earlier it was just about India, winning the important matches and a series away. Now India has done all that. They've got some ICC titles in their bag, and now that it's not come for a while, that's the expectation. Which is, when you look at the larger picture, is a good sign that that is the expectation from the Indian team. But to say that we don't feel the pressure of winning the title is something that we all say. If you're part of the team, that is what you want to say. But yes, it's an important match, and India certainly would want an ICC title to their name, considering all that's going for them, in the recent past. So yeah, that's something that they would want, and this is a great opportunity to have one.
Ian Chappell says Australia favourites, but only slightly. Your thoughts?
Australia favourites, just that it has a much deeper batting lineup with this quality in bowling as well. So I see them as favourites, but Indian bowling will constantly keep them in the game. And hence, maybe Chappell feels, but only by a slight margin. But yes, Australia favourites.